Welcome to Freelancers, the podcast all about freelancing, where we answer all your freelance questions and where I make up a new tagline every single time. Joining me today is essentially a complete stranger to me. I've never met her in real life, even though we live in the same town, Amanda, and she is the owner of 5 Foot Productions, a video production company here in Champaign, Illinois. And Amanda, thank you for joining us, or joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about finding clients and about starting a business. I mean, both of us own freelance businesses, and but before we really get into that, we're doing this from afar. I don't know. Maybe we live just like 2 blocks from each other. I don't know.
Probably.
But how are things going with you during this quarantine, the isolation period?
Surprisingly well, actually. Before all of this hit, I had a lot of editing projects going on, and then a lot of my clients sort of pivoted to using existing footage that we have to make new content, right? And I'm not sure how I managed to keep busy in the way that I am, but I'm very lucky that I can stay busy right now.
Yeah, great. I think that's kind of been par for the course. I've seen a lot of people trying to pivot to utilizing what they already have to create content,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, it's great for us. I mean, you can slap some text over, some previous video, or have them record some VO on their phone even and send it to you.
Yeah, no one's doing that yet for me, thank God, because I don't think I can handle like editing bad video, but it is what it is.
Yeah, cool. Amanda, let's kind of officially start off by give us some of your background. Where are you from, and what do you do, and maybe a little bit of info about 5 Foot Productions, including maybe how you came up with that name.
Yeah, so 5 Foot Productions is because I'm 5 feet tall.
Nice.
I decided to lean into that. So I am originally from Rochester, New York. My husband and I moved to Champaign 10 and a half years ago.
Wow.
He went to law school at the EP.05, so we moved here for that. And then we decided to stay because we both got great jobs. He's at a great firm in town. At the time when he graduated, was working. Oh God, was I working at the? I was working at the News Gazette at that time. Okay, let me start that over again.
That's right. You're joined by your husband in the room, correct?
Yes, Seth is in the room right now, and he gave me a little. So I was working at the News Gazette doing marketing and some video at that time. My education background is I have an undergrad in broadcast communications,
sure,
and I have a master's in journalism.
Right, cool.
So lots of communications, and the jobs that I got here after I graduated included video production. So I was able to sort of hone those skills working at a full-time job. After the News Gazette, I moved into a job at 40 North, the Champaign County Arts Council.
Right. Yeah.
That I was one of 2 staff, and I was doing marketing and events, and obviously using the skills that I have in video. And that job launched my network here in town, right? When you work for a small nonprofit that has to collaborate with all kinds of organizations in town, you get to know a lot of people.
Right.
So I was very lucky to be able to launch 5 Foot Productions, hitting the ground running with existing clients that I had on the side when I worked at 40 North. And it just kind of grew from there.
Cool.
And actually, my old boss at 40 North helped me come up with 5 Foot Production.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Very cool. So it's a great kind of segue into my first question, which is, how do you find clients as a freelancer? I mean, I know how I've done it, but that's a question I get asked like all the time, from people starting out, whether they are coming directly from college, which by the way, I think you and I have the literal exact same degree, master's, and I have a master's in journalism,
Oh, that's funny.
but uh, whether you're starting out fresh out of college or you're starting out maybe later in life, finding clients is like the hardest thing to overcome. So how do you find clients? And how maybe you could even reference how you started finding clients or
Yeah.
translating maybe full-time work clients into freelance ones from 40 North.
Yeah. So, my very first client was Visit Champaign County, and they came to me, and I'm wearing their T-shirt right now. They
The Visitors
came,
Bureau here in town,
the
right?
Visitors Bureau.
Yep.
Yeah. A friend of mine, because when I was at 40 North, we worked in the same building as the Visitors Bureau, and so I had my good friend was the marketing person there, and she said, "Hey, we need a video that we can have on our website, that will be there for the next year and a half to 2 years. We really want it to represent Champaign County." And I'm like, hold up, you want me to do that video? Like, I was shocked that she wanted me to do it, because there's amazing people in town that do amazing work.
Yeah,
And she's like, no, I want you to do it. And I'm like, all right.
sure.
And that kind of launched in my own brain the uh oh, this is a thing that I can do, as a side hustle of my full-time job. So work slow, like, she referred me to another company, and I did work for them, and then I kind of just started dropping sort of, hey, if you need video, let me know. And a good friend of mine at the Champaign Park District, she had me start doing some coverage of some of the big events that they have. And then, of course, my work at 40 North had a lot of eyes on it all the time as well. And so I just kind of became, um, it kind of became that it kind of just got to, people just knew that I did video and then I can do video for them. And so for like a year and a half, I was side hustling doing video. And it got to the point where I lined up enough work that I could quit my full-time job and do freelancing full-time.
Cool.
So it was kind of a snowball effect. It was slow relative to what I wanted it to
Yeah.
happen, but fast now that I think about it, to
Yeah.
build up enough work. And um my at that time I was working for a nonprofit. I wasn't making a ton of money, and so my need to make a, you know 60, 70, $80,000 a year freelancing was just not there. I didn't need to make that much money.
Hmm.
um so it it kind of, everything fell into place in the way that I didn't plan on doing this. It just kind of fell into my lap a little bit, but I went with the flow.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's, looking back, I've got, I don't want to say a similar experience, um, but a somewhat similar experience in that, I had a full-time job originally, and then I transitioned into freelance once I was, working so much on the nights and weekends, trying to
Mhm.
balance this side hustle. And then I was like, you know what, I've got enough clients. I had just landed a really big project and was like, you know what, I think that I could probably go full time.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know your husband. I know your husband as well as I know you, but my wife was like super supportive of it at the time, and I think that that's probably one of the bigger things that comes into play that a lot of people don't talk about, is that,
Yeah.
having that support at home to say like, hey, you do this, you chase this dream or do whatever you got to do, and I'll be here and support you and stuff like that.
Yeah, my
um
husband's pretty pragmatic, so he was kind of nervous about it, but
yeah,
I showed him. So
good, that's good. And yeah, I feel the same way when you touch on it being too slow, at
yeah.
the time, and you're sitting there waiting for this like thing to build momentum, and like, and like, you do good work, and you're like, I just want people to see this and to
Mhm.
hire me for this, and it takes forever. But then, after even 2 years, you look back and you're like, wow, I've got a slate of clients, and I can do this full time
Yeah.
within 2 years, which is wild.
Yeah.
You know,
Champaign County Visitors Bureau is still a client of mine. I do work for them regularly. The Park District is a regular client. Like
hmm
all these clients that I had back in the beginning of this, I still do work for. And
great.
so I'm super lucky to have clients that value my work and value my time and see value in video in the first place.
Yeah, totally agree. So, let's, I want to ask you about establishing maybe like a referral pipeline, because,
Mhm.
maintaining clients that you have is great.
Mhm.
It sounds like you've had some clients for several years now. And, I've got a couple. I actually just got an email from one, if you heard my phone vibrate, um, for, something that I've been working on for a few years. And, they said, hey, we want you to come do this November again. Wonderful. But that's only like, kind of part of the whole gig. I mean, I think that trying to establish a referral pipeline, so getting those clients to tell other people about you and your services, is really important. Do you have any like tips and tricks on how to do that? Or any, maybe even like anecdotal stories on how it's worked out for you, other than standing in your front yard and yelling that you do video production?
um, so a lot of the work that I do are for very public organizations,
Sure.
right? So like the Champaign Park District, the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation,
hmm
VCC. Those all of those any of the work that I do for those guys gets a lot of eyeballs, right? And then I'm assuming what happens is if people want video production, they ask my clients who did it, and they say Amanda did it. Um, so like I'm very lucky that I don't have to do any marketing myself. My work is my marketing. Um, so I don't have, I mean, other than a Google ad every once in a while, I don't pay for any sort of paid marketing.
hmm
Um, Everything. And then another thing that recently in the past year has helped a lot is partnering with marketing firms in town, and then they get to the point where they see value in video for their own clients, and then we just have a business relationship. Like I work a lot with Clan and marketing in town, and we do tons of work together all the time. And so establishing those relationships is really important in terms of growth.
I think you've got some really good points on, you know, creating a video is only half of it. I mean, you've got to be good at what you do.
Mm,
Um, doing small or even large stuff that's not publicly facing can be really tough. I did a dental training series like 4 years ago, and
yeah.
like no one saw it but dentists from around the world, and I'm guessing around the nation, and I'm guessing that a lot of them are not in the market for having their own dental training series done. And it's not something that, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's about like gingivitis and gum disease and cleaning your teeth. So
Yeah.
it's not something that I'm going to put on my website for someone to come and say like, hey, watch this 18-minute video on, proper flossing technique or whatever.
Who
You
wouldn't
know,
want to watch that
yeah.
though?
I think I maybe watched it while I was editing and then never watched it again. I learned all that I could about proper mouth care. But the public facing stuff I think is really important, and it's not necessarily hard to land those clients. You got to work hard, you got to be at the right place at the right time. But
Mm,
the I think the visitors bureaus are really popular. I mean, their job is to market the county, and they do it typically in a very visual manner. Those are great clients to have. Yeah, I've got a couple of economic development councils that are clients too, and one of them from here in Illinois, a different community up in Pontiac. I've gotten like 9 jobs from them, from that one project that I did.
mhm.
And, because they are very publicly facing, or very public facing. And I think that's a really kind of important aspect of, trying to find these people, or trying to find clients that might have big public facing, um, audiences,
Yeah.
and your whole client list does not have to be those, but it does, it does help. Um,
Yeah,
so,
I
oh,
do
go
a
ahead.
project. I do a project for the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation called Innovation Celebration. It's an award ceremony that they have every year, and I've been doing those videos for 8 years, I think now.
Wow.
And it puts me in front of 20 different businesses while I do, and face to face,
Hmm.
they see me set up, we interview them, they see the final product at the event. And so that is massive. It gets me in front of all kinds of different people in a matter of 8 weeks. And so
Wow.
I can't even count how many clients I've gotten out of that project.
Yeah.
Work begets work,
Yeah.
in my opinion. There's definitely a value in marketing yourself if you want to grow um, a lot in a little bit of time, but that's not my style. I want to just go with the flow and grow um, as I
Yeah.
have the capacity to do so.
Yeah, like organically,
Yes,
like over time. Yeah, I
for
I feel
sure.
the same way. I would love to, have a business that over the course of 2 years is suddenly worth like, $500,000. But like I would, that'd be great. But I also would rather have consistent work for the next 2 decades,
Yes.
by building
Yeah.
up that client base and getting those people that are happy with your work and happy to refer you um, to other people. Do you have any stories of or examples of when a client found you? Like at this point in your career, you've been around for long enough that your referrals are probably like 95% of um,
Yes.
your work. Have you had any instances in which someone found you randomly or serendipitously? For instance, I had someone find me because I was posting videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
I got a client that way. Do you have any stories like that or any examples that, in recent years that come to mind?
Well, one very recently, Harvest Market is a brand new client. I started with them like three
Great.
weeks ago.
Great.
And to my knowledge, it wasn't a referral. It was from them finding me online and looking at
Cool.
my website. For
Great.
sure. And
That's a wonderful client to have. They're like a
yes,
big um, grocer, local, like regional grocery
yes,
chain here in
yes.
town. Cool.
And I love grocery stores. Being from Rochester, New York, I'm obsessed with Wegmans. If anybody out there has ever heard of Wegmans, an amazing grocery store. So when Harvest Market
Yeah.
popped up here, what was it 2-3 years
Yep.
ago, I was obsessed with it. I go that's where I do my major grocery shopping. And so when they emailed me, I was like, yes, I will do anything for you.
Yeah.
But they've
Yeah.
been a great client so far. And
Cool.
they're, you know, cold cold emails like that get me nervous because um you don't know how serious they are, and you don't know how how they sort of expect work. Whereas when referrals come in, it's, they've probably been told about your style and about your how you work, and you have a
Hmm.
personal connection. But cold
Yeah.
email, but anyway, so the Harvest Market has worked out so far really well.
Great. Let's pivot into having created an official LLC, because this is
Hmm.
another question that I get asked a lot of times. I know people that have been freelancing for a decade that don't have like an official LLC started or like an S corp, or they're not incorporated in any way, shape, or form. Um, I have only been incorporated since like 2016. So
Mm.
I did freelance full time, for maybe a year before that, and I had been doing freelance on the side for like 7 years before that. Before I started, when did you, officially file your business license? And maybe walk me through that process from your end.
So hmm, what did I do? Like right when quit my full-time job, I forget what I did, but there there was a step where I could put something in the paper that says, yes, I am 5 Foot Productions, and
Yep.
that's that. But that had nothing to do with my taxes or
Right.
how I was bringing in revenue and how that was being taxed. So up until last year, I was just a 1099 worker. I didn't, there was no LLC formed, but it got to the point where I was working with clients who I didn't know personally at that anymore, that I needed to be able to protect my personal assets.
Hmm.
So I just got with a lawyer for like an hour, and luckily you know, my husband's a lawyer, and so he had people in his firm that could help me out. I just met with him for an hour and went over some paperwork and decided that a single owner LLC was the right track for my business. And the paperwork was filed, and that was that. And at this point, still hasn't changed anything that I do with my taxes. It's all the same. I have to do a Schedule C. Um, uh, it's if I want to become like an S corp or anything like that, that would change that structure.
Hmm.
And another reason why I became an LLC is because I wanted to hire an employee to help me with some of my work, and so that was an important step to take to get to the point where I can hire an employee.
Right. I think that's probably one of the bigger, you know, benefits
Mhm.
of, having an LLC, or incorporating, is that you can now hire either freelancers on your own,
Mhm.
or contracted workers, or even part-time workers.
Mhm.
So have you hired someone yet?
I did. I
Oh,
hired
cool. How's that working out?
well, I hired a part-time hourly editor back in October,
Okay.
and then she was I moved right at the same time that I got an LLC. I moved into an office outside of my home, which was a huge step also. And then I hired my part-time editor in October last year, and all was going really well. And then COVID-19 hit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was able to keep her on for a couple of weeks. Um, but I unfortunately had to lay her off about a month ago.
Hmm.
But I just heard that I got a SBA payment protection
Oh,
program
yeah.
loan,
Great.
which for people that might not know what that is, it's a forgivable loan from the Small Business Association to cover payroll costs. So, um, because of the structure of my business, I don't technically take payroll, so I can't pay myself out of this loan.
Right.
It's purely to pay her.
Hmm.
So I just literally emailed her yesterday and said, "Hey, do you want your job back? Because I've got some funding now." And um, so I'm gonna send her some work, and she's gonna work out of our office while I work still from home. But she's pretty excited. So
Cool.
yeah, having an employee it felt like a massive step. It felt more of an epic step than quitting my full-time job.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, am I going to have enough money to pay her?
Yeah.
I need cash flow. I need, I know that I need like 6 months of work that I know I'm going to have. But it's been a huge step, and it's been working out really great.
Cool. Yeah, I had, not an official like part-time employee, but I did have, like an editor that had started
Mm,
helping me out. Um, I think we had hired her, uh, maybe last summer. Yeah.
mm,
And, summers in the Midwest, everyone wants all the video work done. And I usually see a pretty big uptick around the end of, or in the fall too, as people realize that like we're coming up on the 6 month of Illinois looking like total garbage outside, and they want all their stuff done,
yeah.
or they're like, hey, we've only got 3 weeks left of leaves on the trees and whatever.
Mhm.
So we had regular work for her through, through the holiday season. But she also was free to take and did take other part-time jobs here and there, other
Mhm.
editing gigs and stuff. So I agree. It was like a monstrous, like this huge like step, and I was so nervous about it for weeks.
Yes.
Because you've got this like other person whose livelihood kind of depends on you. And
Yeah.
I felt like I was like finally wearing like the big boy pants, in terms of my business. And something else I want to like a follow up I want to ask is, it
Mhm.
sounds like you have an office outside of your home.
Mhm.
I've only ever worked from, a spare bedroom or a basement or something.
Yeah.
What was that process like, and would you recommend it to other freelancers? Like at what point were you like, I gotta get, an office outside of my house?
Yeah. So the whole reason I wanted an office outside of my house is to get an employee. Otherwise, I mean, I love working from home. I thrive at home. But I either needed to start saying no to projects or I needed an employee. And so the next step was to find an office. Um, I have my amazing client, the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation, is renting me an office out of their office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it's been really great being in there. Um,
Just over on Kirby, right?
it's
Is
on
that the one?
Neil. It's right next to Logic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so they're in like the Illini Plaza.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
the
I like
only
that place.
non-university office that's in that building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's working out really well, and um, the pie in the sky dream was to move into like a legitimate studio and to maybe share an office with like-minded individuals and businesses. I am so thankful that we didn't do that
Yeah.
quite yet, until things start moving along again. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a great space to be in, and they are charging me very little rent. So
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I've entertained the idea, and I've known some people that have looked at or that have owned, some like small like warehouse kind of areas where you could put maybe a studio in the back. And
mhm,
it is wonder. I'm like, it's the thing that you dream of going to bed every night is eventually having that where, you could maybe, because I'm sure like I don't use a studio every day. Even if I was
yeah,
busy full time, you don't use a studio every day. You have like on-site stuff and your
mhm,
editing and stuff. And I'm like, you could get it. And even if you could rent it out for a nominal fee for other local photographers or videographers or whatever,
mhm,
you could, it could be an asset to the community, not just you.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I'll be interested to see if um, I'd like to do that at some point. But I also find my need for studio work is
Mhm,
decreasing, over the past couple of years.
for sure.
And even any of the studio stuff I do is like product stuff. So, and I can do it like right
Do
here. I
it
just
at
move my
home.
bikes, or
Yeah.
my bike and my wife's bike, and set up lights and stuff. And we did like a really high end watch promo this last
Mhm,
year
mhm,
in this room. And I don't need a full studio for that, but
mhm.
it would be great. I would love to. I would love to have it.
Yeah,
Um,
see, a studio space seems kind of like an unnecessary risk at this point.
mhm,
And
totally.
I'm not thinking like a huge studio, like, uh, I'm thinking a small studio, but it's a low square footage so that the rent on that space would be low. But
Yeah.
I'm just like you. I rarely use a studio. Um, but I think there might be value in it if I have one. I think clients might take advantage of it, and I might come up with different ways that we can shoot different things instead of always hauling my gear out to wherever I
Oh
need
my
to
gosh.
go.
Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah.
the worst?
Yes, it is.
Like the
So
huge C stands and everything else is just
yeah.
the worst.
Yeah, I can see some value in studio space. Um, but I always follow my gut in terms of my business, and my gut says I don't need one right now.
Yeah, I that's really wise, honestly. And I feel the same way. I would love one, but
Mm,
it doesn't make financial sense for me to do it.
yeah,
And my gut says, yeah, not right now.
yeah.
And maybe
I
down the
need
road.
my house more than my studio.
Yeah, I agree. So, man, I've got a couple more questions here. Were there any like kind of hidden costs associated with freelancing that you kind of discovered as you got into it full time?
Mhm.
Um, that you were like, oh, I got to pay for that now, or anything like that that
Yeah.
comes to mind?
Um, in terms of my business, I'm pretty frugal. I have upgraded gear incrementally and been able to sell gear as I get new stuff. A big cost savings, though, if I can pivot the question a
Oh,
little bit.
hit me with it. I love it.
Yeah. I was buying stock music constantly,
Hmm.
for clients, and I wouldn't necessarily bill them directly for it. It just was kind of a cost that I took on myself.
It
And
was
then so
like
I was
built into your rates
Yeah,
eventually, ultimately. Yeah.
exactly. And so I was spending $20 to $50 per song per project, and it kind of it it adds up.
Right.
So, and when you're buying 10, 15 songs a month, that's a big chunk of money. So I finally discovered subscription-based stock music,
Oh
which
yeah. Which
saved
one do
me.
you go through?
Yeah, so I use Artlist
Oh, me too. Yeah, I love it.
and Soundstripe.
Oh, I've heard of Soundstripe. I've never used it though. Is it
It's
pretty good?
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also just subscribed to Motion Array, which also has like
Yeah.
lots of templates, After Effects,
Yeah.
Premiere
I
templates.
bought
But they
some
also have,
templates from them.
yeah, but they also have stock music and sound effects,
Cool.
which is really great. And so that's a huge that's a huge cost savings for me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it through taxes or
Yeah.
hidden
Those
costs.
are those are great, huh? Yeah.
Terrible.
Um, yeah, and
I plan ahead for those.
yeah. So I think one of the things that really surprised me, and you hear about it, is like filing quarterly when you're a
Yeah.
freelancer, um, and you don't quite get it until it starts happening.
Mm,
And because for those of you who don't know, it's based off your previous year's earnings in that same quarter. So,
mm,
if the first quarter of 2019 I made a lot of money, the first quarter of 2020 I'm going to owe a lot of money on taxes. They assume that I'm going to keep building up there.
mm,
So, if you have like a really good quarter one year and then the next year in that same quarter it's a little slow, it could be you still owe, and ultimately what will happen is anything that you owe over will roll over into your next kind of quarters, or you'll get refunds and stuff. But that was a big like whoa when I
mm,
first started too. I totally I totally get it. um so, and I think something that I actually, it was kind of like a game changer for me, was hiring an accountant after
mhm.
doing it on my own for a couple of years. Do you guys have an accountant that helps out with
Uh,
any of that stuff, or you just kind of, do you go through like TurboTax or anything like that?
it depends on the year. Like,
Yeah.
uh, I've done them on my own, and this year I'm having someone else do them for me. It
Sure.
just, um, I guess it just depends on my needs. That I don't know. It's how I feel.
Yeah, you're good.
I
Trust your
need
gut.
an
Trust
accountant or
trust
not.
trust your gut.
Exactly. This year,
Yeah.
I'm definitely having someone else, and it someone else this year because I started an LLC last year, and
Yep.
I employed someone last year. So
Yep.
I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. It definitely, my taxes became a lot more complicated because of those
Yeah.
two actions. QuickBooks is nice too.
Yeah. What do I use? I think I use QuickBooks, and it's like, when I go on a business trip, I just hit start on the
Mm-hmm.
mileage tracker. It updates,
Mm-hmm.
into my account. It pulls in my bank account so I can categorize stuff. It's um, so easy.
Right.
Were there any like mistakes that you made early on, that you really learned from? Whether it's like, forgetting a battery on a shoot, to dropping the ball on a project or anything like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and if so, can you tell us about it?
Definitely forgetting SD cards.
Yeah.
My husband's right over there, and he
Yeah.
knows how many times he's had to drive
Yeah.
SD cards out to me.
I had to get the like crappy like Walgreens ones before,
Yes, I've had to go to
and you're like,
Walgreens.
oh man. And now I have this like embarrassing one that like doesn't even record 4K well enough. I can use it
Yep.
for audio now, but I bought it like 6 years ago. So sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I interrupted.
No, that's fine. SD cards are definitely like the biggest thing I forgot. I've forgotten tripod plates before, which has been just, I mean, it's embarrassing when you're in front of a client and you realize that you don't have an essential piece of equipment. And
Right.
you're like, oh
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah. No, it's
You're
just
never
normal.
gonna hire me again.
Yeah. I always tape my camera to a stack of books.
Yeah.
I always do that.
That's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those are things that I think that happen to everybody. And then also like losing SD cards.
Right.
That's massive. I've had two instances in the past year where I've lost an SD card and I've had to reshoot everything.
Yikes.
Luckily they were able to reshoot, and it wasn't an event that I totally missed. And so I wouldn't say that I have like a process in place to avoid that, but I definitely am way more careful because it is devastating when you have to tell a client that you have to reshoot something.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. I mean, they're taking time. Most of our clients run businesses,
yeah.
and for them to take an additional 2, 3, 8 hours even, out of their days to like prep and do a shoot with us or whatever,
Mm,
that can mean a lot of lost time and lost revenue essentially in certain
yeah.
cases on their end.
And in the one particular case, it was like scheduling 6 other people to be involved
Yeah.
with that shoot too. I was like,
Yeah.
oh God.
Yeah. It's a lot. I haven't lost any footage in a while. I did on, I worked for Illinois State University years ago in their marketing department. And one of my last projects, it was like the last week I was working there before and they knew I was quitting to start, my freelance business. And I lost, an SD card. I thought I had formatted it. So I formatted it or I thought I had offloaded it. I formatted it in the camera. And then I got back that day and was looking through stuff and was like, definitely did not, record that, or definitely did not upload that interview with the dean or whoever. And it was like so then I was also like, hey guys, someone else is going to have to interview the dean again.
Yep.
I'm out of here. See ya.
I've done
um,
that too. I've reformatted cards that
yeah.
didn't have things or had things that I didn't offload, and it's
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And I mean, in our industry, luckily like mistakes like that suck.
Mm,
But they don't typically mean the end of your business.
yeah.
And you can find other clients, you can, reshoot sometimes.
Mm,
At the very least, you learn something really important to,
for sure. Just yeah.
whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, I think that like, I don't know, I might have to just do like a full episode on mistakes that we make, that people make as freelancers, because there's, everyone's got a different one. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, the SD card, like the SD card one or battery one is always like, that's one that like everyone does. And it's like one of the first things that, when I've taught before, when I've taught or done like courses and in classes on video production or photography, I'm like, make sure you have your SD cards. And then
Mm,
even if you think you have them, make sure they're,
make sure,
like,
make sure you have batteries that
yeah,
are charged.
charge batteries. Yeah. So speaking of batteries, do you have a favorite piece of equipment, and why is it? Is there something that goes with you on like every single shoot? Besides like, obviously a camera or something like
That's my
that.
camera.
Yeah. What camera systems do you guys use?
I
At
have
5 foot.
I have a Sony A7S II.
Oh, nice. Hey,
I've got two of them. Ooh,
this little bad girl right there.
I bought one. I bought both of them used.
Hmm.
The
Which
first
is
one
a
the
great idea
yes.
to buy equipment
If
used.
you
But go
want
ahead.
to save money on equipment,
Yeah.
buy them used,
Yeah.
period. I mean, yeah. So I bought my first A7S II the beginning of last year. And then that was like new condition, right? It's
Hmm.
amazing. And then I just bought another one that I found on Amazon last month for $1,000, and
Wow. Yeah.
they are like what $2,500 new, but it
Yeah.
is like used.
Yeah.
But it's my second camera, it's
Yeah.
like the one I don't necessarily need, but it works, it functions just fine. There's a few
Yeah.
scratches on the outer case,
If the
and on
sensor's good.
sensor's great, everything
Yeah.
functions,
Yeah.
but it's, I don't think I'll ever buy a new camera ever again. I'll
I
just
know.
buy used cameras.
Yeah. I want to so bad. I remember I bought my Sony A7S II brand new.
Mhm,
And it was one of those things that I had a couple really good projects, and I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I never do this. My iMac that I'm filming on right now was
mhm,
a refurbished, like a certified refurbished, one. My
mhm.
MacBook Pro was refurbished. You save tons of money, but I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to buy it. I love opening that like brand new box, but then I cried for like a month at how much I spent on it. And now I have an A6300 and a couple of other
Yeah,
other things, and I buy almost everything
yeah,
slightly used. I mean, you can video people tend to treat their gear really well. And
Exactly.
even if you don't, even if you like beat the crap out of like a C stand, that thing's still going to last for 30 more years, you know.
Exactly.
A couple of dings and stuff like that is not going to wear something down. So
I do
that's a really
splurge.
good piece of advice. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
I do splurge on computers though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, that
Luckily, my
is.
husband can build computers out of components that we buy,
Oh,
and
that's great.
yeah, it's been a
Um,
huge cost savings. But now I have like a machine.
yeah. I think I'm going to be in the market for maybe a new laptop in the next couple of years. I've certainly got my money's worth out of both of my computers, and in
Mm,
my iMac, I just installed a solid state drive
mhm,
a few months ago. I popped it open and did all the install myself, and it was nerve wracking. And
mm.
I had one of those little like compressed air things because I have like cat hair. If you can't see, I've got cat hair floating around for my cats, and I was like the whole time to make sure nothing got you know infected.
Yeah, I know what you
But
mean.
yeah, I mean, I do think you need, in a sense, to get a computer that can handle whatever you're editing.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, but yeah, so you love your Sony A7S2s. Me
Yes.
too. Who doesn't like them?
Yeah.
Waiting for that Sony A7S3 to come out, and then
It's
two
never
years,
gonna happen.
2 years later, they're supposed to announce something at the end of this month. Um,
7S3? Is that
I don't. I according to the rumor mill. Um,
okay?
but they're also, I don't know. It might be like an A7S4 at this point. It might
I've given
be.
up. I've given
Me too.
up.
Um, frankly, and after I think I had told you about this maybe the other day via email, but Canon released some firmware for like all their cameras that you can use it as like a webcam just via USB.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, why? Come on, Sony. You can't even. You're not releasing new cameras. You're not updating firmware. So yeah, I'll buy another used camera in the next couple of
I
years, but I
I
plan on
just
using my A7S2 for another 2 or 3 probably.
I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday about upgrading, and I was asking him. I was looking into the FS5, the
Oh,
Sony
that's a
FS5.
great camera. I've used it a bunch.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't, but I was looking at it thinking, oh, maybe this might be worth the $4,000 it is, and then my friend was like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
He didn't like the form factor, and he admitted it might just because he's used to a mirrorless
Right.
photography first camera. But I was like, oh, that does it. I'm happy
Yeah.
with my two A7S twos,
Yeah.
A7s,
I
whatever they.
would
Yeah.
I would say if you can find one used, I used one for like 3 years, and it's like hands down one of the best cameras I've ever used. And actually, I love the form factor. It's like a little beefier than like a mirrorless or like a
Mhm.
handheld one, and that grip on the side makes it like it's like a tiny little like Canon C100 cinema
Yeah.
style
Sure.
camera. I liked it a lot. The HD out of it was really nice. It was like 10-bit
Yeah.
internal recording, and I think the FS5 II might even be some higher bit rates. I'm not sure, but it
Yeah.
was really nice. I liked it a lot. But I prefer that form factor over a handheld, mirrorless. Actually, I don't have
Mhm.
it right now, but I've got like hand grips that I've built to go on my cage
Yeah, I've seen them.
to turn this into, because I mean, just maybe just the size of my hands
Mhm.
here at 6'1" Productions um, is it's a little small for my liking. So having
Yeah.
a little bit more ergonomical grip, but it's one of those things like to each their own. Um,
Yeah. Whenever I talk
but
about gear, I preface it with I'm not a gearhead, like
uh,
at all.
sure,
And I try to keep my gear really light because it's usually just me on a shoot.
yep,
So like tiny cameras are great. You know, and my gear over the years has become more heavy, um but I think I'm to the point now where I'm like, okay, I can't carry any more gear by myself.
yeah. Yeah, I actually like a year ago I got a rock and roller cart. It's like an expandable
Mm,
one, and it's like their middle of the line one, and maybe like $140, something like that. So
mm,
not an insignificant cost, but it's also not very expensive, and it
mm.
was like a total life changer. But after I got it, I found myself. It's like you're gonna fill your house with however big of a house you get, you're gonna fill it. I
Yeah.
started like just carrying all of the shit I own on this cart for no reason, and I'd get
Yeah.
to a shoot, and I'd have all my cases and all this stuff, and I'm like, I need 2 lights, not
Yeah.
all 8 of them. and like, you know, like why the hell did I bring 2 microphones? You know,
Yeah,
so
I
it was,
customize every time. Like I don't bring certain stuff with me on
yeah,
certain shoots because I
yeah,
just know that I won't need it. And there are other shoots that I need to bring all of the stuff.
yeah,
And yeah,
uh,
sometimes it's 2 trips to the car to get it.
yeah.
Whatever.
Those are always my favorite when you're like, oh, hold on, I got to be right back in, and then you got to sprint out to your car and get another bag or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so, Amanda, last question I have for you. Do you have any fun post-project tradition? So if I'm in like another community after a shoot, I like to go find a local bar and just have a tall glass of dark beer.
Mhm.
I normally drink during this podcast, but it's just coffee today, and my mug is filthy.
Well,
This
it
is
is
really
10:30 in the
this
morning.
is embarrassing. Yeah, I figured I might not start drinking right now.
It's probably a good
Yeah,
optic.
just coffee. Yeah, be taking a nap by
A
like
little bit
noon
of
if I started
Bailey's.
drinking. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
You know, I thought a lot about that question. I don't.
no.
My best, like my favorite thing that I get to do after I finish a project is erase it from my whiteboard
Yeah,
and then invoice them.
that's great. That's, you know what? That's probably the best post project tradition I've heard of. Is being able to like get that off your slate
Yes.
and send an invoice over.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's my celebration.
yeah, love it. Cool. Well, Amanda, that's all I've got for you. Do you have any questions for me or anything else you want to chat about that we didn't kind of talk about or cover while we were talking earlier?
Nope.
Cool. Amanda, just in case anyone is interested that's watching this, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So my website is 5footproductions.com.
Okay.
5 is spelled out.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. I have an Instagram. Um, and they can always email me at amanda@5footproductions.com.
Cool. Wonderful. Amanda, thank you so much for chatting with me for the last hour on a random Thursday morning that I know sounds like we both actually have work to do. So
I do.
I more than more than appreciate the time that you took out of your day to do this. Thanks so much again, and hopefully once this quarantine is up, we'll actually have to get together in person, and I'll drink a dark beer, and you can erase projects from your whiteboard.
Excellent.
Maybe it's kind
That
of
sounds amazing.
as a post shoot tradition from this project.
The thrill is unmatched.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. I will link to all of Amanda's stuff down below so you can contact her if you'd like, or check out some of her fantastic work for her clients here in Champaign and around Central Illinois. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.
Bye.